Have you ever been so focused and excited to do one specific thing on a trip, but when it came down to it, it almost didn't happen? That very thing happened to me this past week when I went to New Mexico with some friends, and I'm going to tell you all about it. Hey guys, my name is Emma and today I'm going to share a fun story with you, but before we kick off, I ask a favor of you. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button. I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers with my wee baby YouTube channel, so I would love it if you hit subscribe. Now let's dive in. So to set the stage, this past week, I went on a bachelorette trip with my very good friend Amy. She's going to be getting married later this year, and we put on a trip to go to New Mexico to celebrate her. And Amy is someone who loves to chill, she loves to be at home, and she also loves nature so much. I'm the maid of honor in her wedding, and I planned the whole trip, and I know that Amy loves hot springs. We didn't want to pay for hot springs this time around. We thought it would be cool if we could find something out in nature. I found that the only trail that seemed to be reasonably accessible this time of year was Spence Hot Springs. Now the thing is, when I researched this trail, I saw some reviews that made me a little bit skeptical of my choice. One of my favorites said, muddy, incredibly muddy. Review after review after review talked about how muddy this trail was. It was so muddy that I wasn't sure if we'd be able to hike it because it sounded pretty bad. Not only that, but the hot spring wasn't really hot according to reviews. It was more or less warm. I honestly didn't know what we'd be getting ourselves into, but I put it on the itinerary and hoped for the best. Now, to me, the funniest thing about this trip is that en route, we basically hit a blizzard. We were in near whiteout conditions on the highway. We had to drive really slow, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is too much snow to go on a hike. Even though initially we had planned to go on that hike our very first day so we could get it out of the way, it didn't seem wise for any of us because there was so much snowfall. So our second day at the Verbo, the sun was shining. After whiteout conditions and gray and snowflake after snowflake, I was so relieved to actually see our gorgeous home for the week filled with sunshine. The sidewalks and the highways were clearing off, the snow was somehow melting, and so that meant we were a go for the hike. Now, the night before, the girls decided to pivot and choose a different hike than the one that I had chosen because the hot springs seemed a lot cooler, not temperature-wise, more awesome. And so we thought, let's head for that hot spring. It's gonna be really cool and a much better experience. But we follow our GPS, driving 2 hours away from our Verbo, only to find that the directions took us to a paid hot spring. Now, at this point, we were a little bit frustrated. It was a little bit further to the hot spring than we thought it was in the first place, so we were spending more time on the road. We had to get back by 3 p.m. to our tickets to the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum in Santa Fe, and now we were lost. There was no service in this tiny town, and we couldn't figure out where the hot spring was. So we had 2 cars and we both stopped and tried to game plan and figure out what to do. And we essentially decided if we can't find San Antonio hot springs, let's go to our original plan of Spence hot springs, which I vaguely knew was on the highway that we were going on. So we headed down the highway again, and this was a super cool part because it's like everything started to change from not super wintry to very wintry forest high up in a mountain. It was gorgeous. But as the beauty increased, our hopes decreased because we weren't finding anything. We continued on New Mexico Highway 4, finding no signs indicating hot springs. There was one indicating a hot spring that was not the hot spring we were looking for, and so we kept going and going, and the highway curved, and it looked like we were about to leave the mountain, much less find a hot spring. And again, we were just starting to get a little bit discouraged, and we pretty much had all but lost hope at this point. But I just remembered, before we left for the trip, I looked up the route on Street View, and I remembered when I looked on Street View that it was just off Highway 4. And I remember that the pullout was kind of like an in-out pullout, just like off the highway. So I knew that we had to have passed it because I vaguely remembered where it was on the map. And so we turned around and headed back, and I had this like point in my mind. And I don't remember who finally decided, okay, this is the spot we're aiming for, but we drove, and wouldn't you know, we found a pullout. Was there a sign? No. Was there anything indicating that we were in the right spot? No. I think there was a sign like off the parking area just a little bit that might have indicated that Spence Hot Springs was on the way. I don't really know. I didn't read it. I trusted my friends once we got there, and we got to hiking. According to what I'd read on All Trails, it was about a 0.7-mile hike to where we were going. People said it was hard, and they said it was muddy. So we hiked through the snow, guys. We hiked through the mud, and it definitely seemed like more than a 144-foot elevation gain, for the record. But we got there, guys, and I screamed with happiness. I couldn't believe it. We found it. We found the hot springs. I've never hiked on a mountain in the winter, in the snow, with a swimsuit as my base layer. But let me tell you, it was one of the coolest experiences to then take off all my layers and hop into a hot spring in the mountains in my swimming suit. We got in the water and just like relished in the incredible experience. As if it wasn't good enough already, then it started to snow. Like a lot. Like, we probably can't stay here much longer or we're going to be in trouble kind of snow. And so we hung out in the hot springs as long as we could. I explored a cave, which was really hard to take pictures in because there was like so much steam in there. So I apologize. I don't really have footage or videos from the cave. But my gosh, it was like the coolest view, and we were nice and cozy in this warm water in the winter in the wilderness. And what an incredible experience. This is like maybe a new unique thing I want to start doing when I travel and go hiking, is find hot springs in the mountains. Because like, what a hidden gem to have like an outdoor hot tub experience in the most beautiful places. Like, okay. So yeah, we all hiked back in the snow, and it was just a super cool experience. I'm so glad we made it. And we did. We were only like 10 or 15 minutes late to the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. And while I can't share any footage from inside of there, I did take a sneaky little time lapse of my friends' feet as they were looking at art. And we just had like a super, super cool time in New Mexico. The next day we had to leave dark and early so that we could all drive back to Kansas. But it was truly just a gorgeous experience. I think we're all a little bit tired. It was a fast trip. It was a lot of time on the road, but it showed me that planning and being willing to pivot can pay off in the end. Like, we pivoted the day we wanted to hike, and we pivoted which hike we wanted to do, and in the end went on the original hike, but we all tried our best to be flexible so that we could make this really cool goal happen to celebrate and love on our friend Amy. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you have questions or comments about anything on our trip, please comment. And as always, like I mentioned earlier, I would so appreciate a subscribe if you like my channel. So wishing you guys all the best. Have an awesome day. Thanks. Bye.